Okay, we are live, and welcome to another episode of the newly renamed Qué Pasó Podcast. I'm Ernest Snooks, and this is Eduardo, and Pablo.
Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry guys for letting you down.
Hello.
So there's a very spicy episode today we have.
It definitely is.
Okay? So are we going to talk about the Pope? So, well, he's Argentinian, so we have plenty of things to talk about him now.
Yeah. For example, he's not your average Argentinian. I mean, he's not either fan of River Plate or Boca Juniors. So that's pretty sketchy for an Argentinian.
Yeah. I mean, he's really got himself in some trouble by enabling, I believe it's this American cardinal. I'm not a Catholic, and so I only hear about the secondhand information. But the one Latino Pope we get, and he frigs it up.
It's funny because I think it was Benedict XVI. I think he was part of the Hitler Youth when he was younger. So now we have a guy who pretty much enables sexual assault. Oh my God! But this is something that I remember here in Chile. It was very common hearing about bishops and cardinals and all kinds of priests. Just basically, they were members of the communities for years. And they later found out, oh, no. Many of these children, they know him. They were raped by him. He sexually harassed people. And everyone was like, oh, my God, but we thought he was so nice because he was a man of God. No. And I've seen some people. Yeah, I've seen some people on Twitter, actually, talking about this. I mean, I will say hardcore Christians are saying that this is not an issue of the church. This is an issue of homosexuality. Because according to the data, most of the victims are kids, are male kids, male children. And I was thinking, wait, what? No. This is an issue about who these guys molested. It's a matter that the church has hid all of this kind of abuse for decades. In fact, I one time watched a documentary that talk about this, about a school in which there was the priest there. It was a Catholic school. The priest there was a pedophile, and many of the children were deaf children. And one of the victims, who was now older, he had now recently he was married, he had a job. He said that when I arrived, many of the children were actually happy because this guy, the priest, had his favorites, and he always get the new ones. And the funny thing about this is that they say that one time a young priest arrived, a very young one. They told him everything that happened, and he said, I'm going to do everything in my hand to stop this guy. And they say that was the last time they saw him. The other day, the church sent him somewhere else. So the problem here is that the Catholic Church has basically covered up all these years, all these problems. And it really hurts me that because when I first watched Francisco, I mean, of course he's Argentinian and I'm Chilean, so of course there's some kind of bias here. So I said, oh my God, he's Argentinian, of course. But I said, he now has to deal with this, a problem that has been there for decades, basically. Anyone has any thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go on.
I mean, Benedict had, for example, it was with John Paul II. What I saw with the Legion of Christ, it's a congregation from here, from Mexico. Ernest and I were talking about it the last podcast when this all came to light. At first, John Paul II said, well, there's no problem. He basically exonerated him. Then Benedict came along and he went all the way through with them. And at the end of his days, the founder and main child abuser of them, Father Marcial Maciel, he was living in a house of the congregation with his assistant, which was one of the many women he had children with, and another and his assistant's daughter. The daughter didn't even knew he was her father.
Wow.
This was in his last days. So now we have this a cardinal pointing the finger to Pope Francis, saying that he knew about the child abuse in the United States, and incriminating that he knew of the cardinal for the United States, of that he was a child abuser and tolerated it. So it's really fucked up. And as you said before, he said this cardinal that wrote this letter memo said that the problem was homosexuality in the church. I don't know. I
don't think so. Really,
me neither. But then again, the trend that I think has been in the public light, that all the liberal people, it's defending Francis, that this is just something to mess with him. These are the conservative side of the church trying to bring him down. I mean, it really gets on my nerves, the liberals siding with child abusers to stick it to the conservatives. It's fucked up.
Sticking it is not the right choice of words in this situation, but
oh yes,
but yeah, no, but it is, honestly, it's a serious topic. We've also had it here in Newfoundland. We had a lot of it. The Christian Brothers were the big ones who were abusing a lot of kids here, because here we had denominational schools, like Catholic schools, Anglican schools. And the Catholics, it was bad. It was really, really bad and fun. Well, not a fun story, but a terrifying story. When I was really young, I was probably about 15, 16. I was involved in this political campaign. First one I ever did, and it was for a socialist party, the New Democratic Party. And the candidate was a retired priest. And he almost won, but he came in second place, but he was really famous around here. Like, he was, I'm not going to say his name because he's dead, and this is related to this, but he was a union leader too, so he organized fishermen and things like that, and had affiliations to a lot of groups and everything. When he lost, a couple days later, it came out that he had molested kids, or he was about to be arrested for it. And he went into his garage and killed himself. I heard about it, and I said, well, because he was kind of friendly to me. Like, he wasn't like hanging out with me or nothing like that, but he'd come over and he'd chat to me for a while and shake my hand and all kinds of stuff. Nothing happened, thank God. But that was my close encounter with it. But the Catholic Church around here, that diocese had to pay a lot of money, like millions, that it's still paying off. There's Mount Moriah, not Mount Moriah, there's Mount Cashel, there's a bunch of other ones that I just can't even go into. It's all over the place. And I think the problem is not really homosexuality. I think the problem in the church comes down to, one, the quality of people they're bringing in, because, there's a shortage of priests. It's not a lot of people want to go and I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone who wants to be a priest, who is a priest, but it's hard for someone to want to go into a literally sexless job that, you know, you can't do, you know, a basic human biological function, you know. And so it turns away a lot of people. And then the only people who want to do it are people who realize, well, listen, wait a minute. I can get close to people. I can get close to kids, and you know, they'll trust me because I'm a priest, you know. You always trust your priest.
Yes.
And I'm not saying every priest is going to do that. I mean, there are some very, very good Catholic priests who don't touch kids. But there's also a lot who have seen this. And I mean, I think the church doesn't have a homosexuality problem. They have a pedophile problem because they're so desperate for priests that, you know, they're not really going to background check. And even then, it's hard to really tell. Somebody might never have done this kind of thing before, or have done it under the radar. And I mean, especially, you know, when a lot of these priests came in, you know, into their jobs, you know, this is, you know, a lot of these scandals are from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. They weren't really doing background checks like they do now. I mean, so it was easier for them. And the church, of course, would cover for them and move them around and enable this. So, you know, there's a lot of people, tens of thousands, I'd say millions of people who have been affected by this shit.
Yes. And it's sad because many people I know, for example, many people I know are very deeply Catholic, and they are seeing basically how people who they believe that they can trust, people close to God, as they said, have ended up doing these things. Now, I'm not a Catholic. I ceased to be one when I left school, but I really get how many people are feeling that right now. Because the problem, I don't think the problem is the religion. In fact, the problem is the authority of the Catholic Church that it has on all these subjects. Because I've seen cases, read cases, many from the 60s, as you're saying, and I'm just surprised that these people, they were never sent to prison or anything, because they have power and influence. In fact, one time I read that there is a network in the Vatican of many bishops and cardinals have been in positions of power for decades, and they are the ones who are actually helping cover all this up because they don't want to lose power. They have power within it, and they see, and they have kept this idea, for example, that if you caught a priest because he has la sotana, how we call it here, you can judge him with the laws of any state. He has to be judged by the authorities of the church. But the problem there is that because they have connections with those authorities, they get a free pass.
They do. And I mean, the other problem here is that, you know, generally Catholicism isn't a terrible thing. I mean, my mother is Catholic. I know plenty of Catholics who are good people. But the thing is that this has seriously damaged, you know, a once strong institution. I mean, this is a lot. People lost trust in this because, I mean, you go to your priest because you trust them. You know, you have issues. You know, you want to talk about it with somebody. And back in the day, there wasn't psychiatrists or you know, mental health professionals. So you go to your priest. You talk to them. You know, and they listen. You know, that's what confession originally is. I think I think it's the original form of therapy, just with more Hail Marys and candles. But you know, that trust is gone. It's destroyed. You look on Twitter now, like there's priests who have Twitter, and literally there's one guy, and it literally says on his Twitter, under DM and mail, do not message me. Do not message me. And I'm just like, wow, this problem is that bad that priests who should be trying to, you know, to connect with the next generation of Christians or Catholics, they can't even talk to them, because if they do, and there's even an inkling of friendship, they're going to get labeled as a pedophile, and it's going to destroy them. And I mean, they're scared, and reasonably so. Now, I think, you know, the real problem with this is that priests can't marry. If they were to allow the Catholic priests to marry, like they do with with my church, the Anglican Church, they're allowed to marry, and it's not against the Bible the reason that the Catholic Church prevented priests from marrying is because the priests would marry in the Middle Ages, have kids, and then give the kids the church. And
yes.
and the bishops were like, wait a minute, why I didn't approve this. Why does your kid have the church? We have to stop this. This is, we're giving up all our stuff. And the one thing the church in the Middle Ages didn't like to do is part with its money or property. They really didn't like that. So they put this rule in. And I mean, at first it was a good idea because, I mean, it prevents like hereditary transfers of land and title and property, But then it has this side effect. Because nobody wants to be a Catholic priest because you can't have sex. And generally people like to do that.
Yeah, well, it's also I think I understand the decision. It's being a priest is a job that I don't think it's suitable to be inherited. For example, there's this particular case in the infirmaries of bull rings in Spain. The infirmaries have been in the same family, for example, the Seville bull ring in La Maestranza. The infirmary has been in the same family for generations. The same goes for the one in Zaragoza, Madrid, Barcelona. And sometimes the people in charge of them is not, certified medical personnel. It's people that just know how to, open a body and maybe stitch wounds and no more. And they always insist on perform surgery there. It's not a place to perform surgery. So as that job shouldn't be inherited. So as being the priest in a church, but I don't know. It's
wait a second. You mean there's people in Mexico that have like essentially a clinic, and they're doing surgery, and they're not really qualified to do surgery
in Spain.
In Spain. Okay, yeah.
In the bull rings.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah, if the matador gets
gored or something like that.
Yeah, they sometimes they are not even doctors, and they want to perform surgery there because weird thing, this doesn't happen in Mexico. In Mexico, stabilize the patient here and take him to the hospital. That's all.
Well, we don't have the bullfighting problem in Canada because it's not allowed. We barely have a rodeo now. The animal rights people have pretty much stopped it. So now if I want to see any like bullfighting or anything, I have to go south.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think we can wrap that is on the topic of the Catholic priest. There's really few things to unpack there because pretty much everything is well laid down. So what's the other subject would you like to talk about, guys?
The Petro, which is apparently
the Petro
real.
The Petro thing, it just amazes me. I mean, everything that comes out of Venezuela now is basically a meme by now. Everything they're trying to do, because now you have a migrant crisis. Colombia, Peru, and Brazil are suffering from a migrant crisis right now. And now, what does Maduro does? The Petro coins. Holy fucking shit.
Our imaginary money that nobody really knows how to purchase. And if you do purchase it, you don't really get to use it because you can't actually access it.
And American socialists believe is the way forward. Fucking shit.
I know. It's funny because we had a Venezuelan on a couple of episodes ago, and even she said, like, this is a scam. It doesn't really exist. Nobody really buys this thing because it's, according to the Constitution, it's backed up with the country's, massive oil and mineral reserves. But the thing is, your currency is supposed to be doing that anyway. I mean, I spoke to an economist, and this guy was the an economic advisor to the prime minister of the Ukraine, so he knows his stuff relatively well. And he's telling me, he's like, look, when you have your currency, it has to be backed up against something. That's just common sense. So for Venezuela or most countries, it's their natural resources. Their the minerals, their gold, their ore, their oil. Now they're backing their currency. They're backing the hilariously named Bolivar Soberano, which they keep changing the name of that fucking currency. But they keep changing it, and they're backing it up now with the petro. And I asked him, I said, is this a good idea? And he's just like, this currency it's a Bitcoin. It's never been done before. No country has ever put their money up against a Bitcoin. And I mean, listen, he's like, it's the future. Yes, it's probably going to happen sooner or later. But right now is not the time. This is too risky, especially, with the fluctuations, because when you have you're putting your currency up against, you're saying like the petro is going to be banked by oil, for example. That's why it's called petro. Oil fluctuates rapidly. I mean,
wars,
more than gold.
And stuff.
More than gold. Gold fluctuates as well, but gold doesn't go like from $50 an ounce to like 12 or this or that. You're not trading as much gold as you are trading oil by a long shot. But it's too risky financially. And so you've already got a currency that's useless. I mean, the Bolivar Soberano is essentially toilet paper with pretty markings on it. That's all it is. I know people who use it for toilet paper. And I'm trying to get myself some so I can make a roll of it so I can wipe my ass with socialism.
I saw women in Venezuela that were making purses out of bills.
I saw that. I think they're soon going to start making pants out of like PSUV propaganda posters. You're going to see that soon. Like you're going to have like Maduro pants, or something. But I mean, either way, the petro isn't real. People have complained that they've bought loads of it and can't access it. And Reuters.
It's a scam. It's a scam.
Reuters did this. And it's like the petro is personal. Anything in the crypto world is, but it's a special case in Venezuela with the petro, the new cryptocurrency designed to boost the bolivar, the country's inflation-plagued national currency. International experts, however, have rather blunt words for the petro. It's a scam on top of another scam. Now let me see. It says Farias, smartly dressed with short stubble, launched Crypto Buyer 3 years ago to help Latin Americans use cryptocurrencies to protect their salaries and savings. Cryptocurrencies may be highly volatile. The Bitcoin, for example, has plummeted from its peak of $19,000 in January to around $6,000 now. For consumers in Venezuela, however, this probably counts as stable given the hyperinflation pushing the country to the brink of economic collapse. Long story short, actually, guys, I just read this. The Venezuelan economy is going to shrink by 18% this year. Almost a quarter.
Hey, did you hear that? I think I just heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just screaming at the top of her lungs, "No, that's not real socialism."
Oh God, don't even get me started on that. It's such socialism. It's just dripping with socialism.
Yes, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people try to tell you that it ain't. It's socialism, because they say, "Oh, but 75% of their companies were privatized." Oh, yeah, but what happened later?
Well, no, the companies were technically, taken over, but they were. It's a form of crony socialism. It is socialism, but it's crony because you are taking it and giving it to the workers, who are generally all Chavistas or members of the PSUV or PSUV-sponsored unions, or as the Venezuelan told me, and I think she mentioned this on the show. She's like, they're all colectivos. They're all like, essentially the government militia. And that's another thing we got to talk about someday is the collectivos. I was terrified when I went to Peru. They have collectivos, but they're all taxi drivers. And when I first heard, like, well, I'm calling the collectivos, I actually thought they were calling the Venezuelan, like, gang on me or something. but no, that was a mistake that I'm glad was a mistake. But no, long story short, the petro is useless. And it's just really it's a pyramid scheme to get your money. Or maybe it's a pyramid scheme, but, people are just going to throw what little savings they think they have at this. I mean, I don't see Diosdado Cabello or Delcy Rodriguez or Maduro literally going out on TV and saying, look, swipe, I just bought 15,000 petros. You should do it too. They don't do this stuff. They just tell you, trust us. You can always trust the Venezuelan government.
And the people that are actually gonna, buy the petro, or invest in petro, will be, the champagne socialist in Europe and
but they
North
can't
America.
Buy it. They're not allowed to buy it.
Once they are allowed to buy it, they will buy it, and eventually I think they will, say, well, this cryptocurrency collapsed, so you lost everything you invested.
It's the economic war against the people of Venezuela. That's why the petro is collapsed. The Americans stole all the money.
I mean, I heard one guy saying that only Venezuela, a country with oil, can fucked up so hard, because every other country that has oil is not exactly precisely rich, but is at least doing well. Even some of the most backward Islamic states, for example, Brunei, who has oil, is a freaking island in the middle of the ocean. It has oil. Qatar is just an island with some palm trees and camels. It's rich because it has oil.
Soon to be Iceland.
To be Ireland, yeah. The Saudis are digging their way around that one. It's like a Wile. It's like a Warner Brothers like scam, like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner kind of a thing. He's like, I'm gonna trap you at last. Yes. We're gonna trap those crafty Qataris.
Yeah. I actually saw the Bolivares purses. They're actually quite fashionable.
I'm actually gonna ask my friend to get me like some stuff. I really just want a roll of sanitized bolivars, just so, like I said, I can wipe my ass with socialism. That's the dream.
I'm sorry, Bolivar. I'm sorry that your legacy is this.
I know. Oh, it's all. Well, then again, his other legacy was syphilis. Simon Bolivar had syphilis. And he also just sucked at being a president. Like everyone else.
Yeah, this is the thing with this is the thing, man. I mean, Venezuela is going to shit. In my opinion, now is a point that is not even about socialism or capitalism. No, it's a country that is going to the point of no return. Now, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a civil war by now. I'm amazed by that. But
by the way, sorry to interrupt you there. I just found out that you know how they said that they just raised the minimum wage in Venezuela.
Oh yes,
I heard. Yeah.
Apparently, it wasn't official, and many people are still making the same old salary, which is like 50 cents US, I think, something like that. It's something like no, you really can't. I've got friends in Venezuela that I'm not trying to brag because this is shit, but I send them like a little bit of money because they need it. I've got like a couple of friends who I'll just be like, look, here's some money, buy meat or stuff. And it's actually depressing when they're like, well, listen, with like your $10, I can buy like 2 kilos of meat. And I couldn't get 2 kilos of meat for $10. I wish. I'd probably be 600 pounds by the end of it. But no, it's pretty fucked up. What's going on? I just really hope somebody catches all the PSUV leadership and literally hangs them. I'm literally tired. I don't wish harm on anybody except them, because they've literally destroyed a country. If you need a lesson on how to fuck up, they are the poster child. Like this is the exact example of how not to run a country. I mean, I know Lula da Silva was shit, but he was nothing compared to them.
You know the difference with Lula. The difference is that, for example, Chavez, he had support from military, he had support from certain sides of the Venezuelan society, and basically when he was president, no one had the power to fight him. Only when he died did the opposition had any chance of actually put him down. In Brazil, it's quite different because Lula was a populist. Lula appeared to say, "Hey, I'm going to make everything great," and
then
now you see what he. Yeah, he stole a lot of money, but that's common with many democratic socialists here in South America. It happened with Bachelet. It's not exactly with her, but many people from her own political party. It happened with the Kirchners. So I say that the problem here is about how we're going to fix Venezuela in the long run, because Maduro is a guy that I believe that if he keeps ruining it, I believe that there will be, I don't know, a civil war or an uprising, because the military is on his side. The military are pretty okay. In fact, the ones who are eating the best are the soldiers.
Well, that makes sense, though. You mean you have to feed the people who keep you in power, and that's literally the Guardia Nacional Bolivariano or whatever.
Ejército Nacional Bolivariano.
Yeah, Bolivariano. I mean, them and Sabine and the regular army. I mean, actually, the Venezuelan military is pretty much written like a copy of the Iranian army, because you have the Revolutionary Guard, which is Venezuela, the GNB, except unlike the Iranians, the Venezuelans run away when anything goes boom. Which you've all seen, when Maduro nearly got drone struck. And everyone just and like the cream of the crop of the Bolivarian National Guard ran away screaming.
Oh no, that was the best part. That was actually very funny.
It was, because I actually remember seeing the exact moment he shit himself.
And so these guys like bringing the riot shields and stuff, and I was like, okay, guys, you saw the movie, you saw in Rome. We need to use the fucking shields as a testudo. Okay, this might work.
If it's anything like the shields, like the Policía de Asalto in Lima have, that's not going to stop shit. It's a plastic. Because like I had a friend, he's a cop, and he's just like, well, I'm going out to stop. I'm going out for a riot, and I was like, okay, how good is your shield? He's like, it was plastic.
Oh, that's riot control shield.
Yeah, I was like, will it stop anything? He's like, a rock. And anything else? He's like, no, it'll go through it and probably kill me. Don't you have body armor? No. He's like, we just got new pistols. We're not getting body armor. Which is sad. But no. But long story short, actually, I think the only way you're going to fix Venezuela, like once the PSUV is overthrown, is to essentially de-socialize the entire country. I'm writing an idea on this, and essentially, they can't have democracy for at least a decade. You just can't do it, because you need to have a government that is going to sit there and just make every hard decision, like every kind of hard decision. There has to be austerity. There's got to be significant cuts. You generally can't have any social services. Well, not too many.
Cut all the regulations.
No, it has to be. You have to like literally just open wide and let capitalism go in.
Yeah, like they did in Germany after World War II. They put almost every regulation to the bare minimum.
And they need to do, and it's the same thing with Peru there, because I mean, in the 80s, Peru was going through severe inflation, like hyperinflation under Alan Garcia, and it got so bad. And then when Fujimori came in charge, and I think they had changed the currency from the inti, which is a stupid name for money, to the Sol, which is an equally bad name for money. You should name your money Sun. But you know, but I've always got some sun shining in. But but they had to do it. Like the inflation was so bad, they literally had to abandon their currency, get another one, peg it to, I believe, the American dollar, and then just go from there. And it helped. That and Fujimori's corruption.
Also, I think that I saw a guy on Twitter. I won't say his name because he's not important, but he's a guy, a YouTuber, and he was speaking about a military intervention in Mexico after AMLO's victory, because he's supposedly socialist. But before that, he had been speaking about a military intervention in Venezuela. Why that wouldn't work? Of Montezuma. Yes. It's very easy why that wouldn't work, because I mean, if you invade Venezuela with a bunch of gringos, so you bring a couple of tanks and gunships, you know you're gonna get the entire continent a little hissy fit about it. So
well,
I think
that throw bread at them first instead of like dropping Brahms. You just drop McDonald's.
I mean, drop a few empanadas on Maduro's palace, and he would probably surrender.
Just get some bimbos and just fly over the country, dropping like bimbo packages. I think they have bimbo in like Mexico and in Chile. They have it in Peru.
Oh yes, we have it here.
Bimbo?
Yeah, bimbo. Yeah, which is the best
bimbo
ever.
It's
which is the best name for a food chain.
Well, it's one of the most the biggest Mexican companies. They have like literally a piece of the market in everywhere.
Well, everyone loves bimbos.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think they thought that through when they came up with that name. I say the feminists really don't like to eat there. But I'm not sure if you know the English connotations of it, but
yeah.
It's also just like and I found this out. There's a university, we've all heard of Cambridge University in the UK. Their conservative association is called the Cambridge University Conservative Union. The acronym is KUKA, which is slang for like vagina. So and I sent that to a friend of mine, and they're Venezuelan, and I'm just like, you need to see this. They're like, what is it? I was like, here it is. They're like, so it's a conservative union. What? I was like, look at the acronym.
Look.
Oh my god.
The college I went to, they had to change their name. They had to change their acronym because it was like, it meant vagina in like some slang in some country, and somebody pointed it out and they changed it right away. Because it was fun. So now it's like, it used to be Kona, and now it's CNA. Just because, and people get angry if you say Kona. If you're like, oh, I went to Kona. No, it's not Kona. It's CNA.
Shit.
Why? They're like, because it has a negative connotation.
Spanish, honestly, man, is.
I know. That's why I love that language. It's just but I want to email them now and just let them know that only a conservative organization would have an acronym named after the one thing they generally want to put regulations on, or so the feminists and leftists think.
That's something I will tweet, man. That's a great tweet.
Feel free to. But now, moving on.
That's a Petra scam. What's else? So I think this is something that I wanted to talk about, and I brought to you about this before we started. About this German of Cuban origin who was murdered in the city of Chemnitz. I don't know.
Chemnitz, yeah.
Chemnitz. So this is the first time I heard about this, and the only news I have right now is the one from La Tercera. So for those of you who are watching, La Tercera is like the largest newspaper here in Chile. The second one is El Mercurio. Now, both of them are basically center-right. So there is and in fact, the center right has actually the monopoly on the Chilean information, because we have a left-leaning newspaper, but it's not as circulated as the other one. So what happened was that a 35-year-old man whose name was Daniel Hillig. He was a German of Cuban origin. In fact, I saw his picture. He's in the article. I think you look at him, he's pretty Cuban. He was stabbed by two people during what is said certain festivities in the country. So at first I was like, okay. So I thought he was stabbed by just two guys who were very drunk. And in fact, the news says it looks like this kind of events is something very common that occurs during this kind of celebrations. But the Hillig's death gave way to major mobilizations, anti-immigrant mobilizations, and these are the largest since this city was part of Eastern Germany. What was the line that set the match was that a police report indicated that the two main suspects. So I committed a mistake. These are not the people who did it, but the main suspects were two asylum seekers from Syria and Iraq.
Who would have thought?
Yes, and it actually doesn't surprises me, honestly. And what happened was that later there was a wave of racist violence in the city of Chemnitz against mostly against Angela Merkel's policies. Now, what I want to talk about, you guys, is something that it always irks my mind. Is, first of all, I'm no fan of the far right. I'm no fan of. I'm not a xenophobic person either. But you have to understand.
Chilean ever.
Yes, I know. But you have to understand that there are people currently flogging right now. People going to support the far right in many of these countries because of things like this.
Flocking.
Yes, flocking. They're going to do it. And in reality, I will do everything in my power to stop them or go to center-left groups. So the problem is right now that the situation has escalated. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this because it's pretty much straightforward and it's not something that I really like to delve into that much. Or in another episode we can do it. But many people have died at hands of immigrants. Now, the suspects are presumed to be immigrants, but I think that now in Germany, with this, the only presumption that the guys were from Arab origin, it's enough to generate any kind of response. Now, I do not support violence in any way, and I think it's pretty. And it's very shameful that actually I think that there was people who were wounded by this. In fact, I heard that the AfD, who is a party in Germany who is getting famous, although I've heard that they're not very great right now.
Alternative for Deutschland.
They actually start talking about this as an example of the dangers of multiculturalism. And honestly, I'm like, well, is really that bad? Is really that wrong that they use it? Because the politicizing a tragedy is common, and the far right do it, the left wing doesn't. But honestly, it just lets you to see that people are fed up by this. And it's funny that it was an immigrant presumably killed by immigrants.
Yeah,
now
it's the situation in Germany and in Europe is reaching a breaking point. We saw in past weeks a couple of incidents in Morocco, Spain border, how the immigrants storm through the fences with makeshift flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails. I mean, if the government were some other party or some other people, they would say, okay, it's threatening our police, shoot to kill. I don't care. they are bringing flamethrowers.
That's really that's really over the top. But go ahead.
The appropriate response, I think it could be, shooting them back.
Honestly, my opinion with this is that, of course, it's okay. I think it's okay. The immigration thing is okay. The problem is that the people they're letting in don't want to integrate. They don't want to assimilate to the society they're arriving, and that's something that I think it's common for every immigrant. I mean, you, Ernesto, you want to be part of Peru, and you're learning things about Peru, reading el comercio, because you want to be part of their society. You want to be a valuable member of the society. I sent you the link, by the way, in the chat. You want to fit in. Is that a crime?
It's common sense, because why would I want to go to a country and not blend in, not be? Why would I want to draw attention to myself? I just want to be treated like everyone else. I just want the same amount of respect. I don't want to go around and say, "Look at me, I'm a white, I'm a Canadian in Peru." No, I want to be a Peruvian. I know. Here's the funny thing: I know the anthem. I know the Himno Nacional de Peru better than I know the Canadian national anthem.
The Canadian national anthem is boring.
No, it is actually, like, every South American hymn, like national anthem, is better. The Mexican one is just like, let's blow up things with cannons.
Yeah.
Chile is just let's steal things.
There's actually a line in the Mexican anthem. We don't usually sing it, but it says something that if we are gonna go, it will be in a place of glory and bathe in the blood of our enemies.
Wow.
That's the best anthem ever.
It just goes to show you. It just goes to show you, because, for example, here, and I've said this many times, many Haitian immigrants are coming here, and many of them don't speak a bit of Spanish, but they're learning. Many of them are trying to learn Spanish. And I've seen Haitians who now speak fluent Spanish. We have trained Haitians in our national police that they're going back to Haiti to help their own country. So I can understand. I understand they're coming. The people from Haiti are coming from a place of poverty. They're coming from a country that is, well, Trump said a shithole, but I prefer to say it, one of the poorest countries in Latin America. And you know something funny? We in Chile have poblaciones, which are basically hoods basically. And something common that people do there, many of the poor strata, they build mediaguas, which are basically shacks with no clean water and no electricity. You know what the Haitians do? They build a fucking house.
What?
They don't buy them. Yeah. They don't buy shit. They don't buy a mediagua. They find a terrain, and then with the community around them, they say, okay, we're going to buy the materials, and we are going to build a house. And they build a fucking house. In Haiti, they do the same thing. They build a house. Why? Because the men from Haiti are people who work. They work hard. I've seen them working.
I think it's because they have to, because like in Canada, for example, we have such large amounts of social programs that you don't really have to go out and do shit, because the government will take care of you to an extent. But like I when I go to South America and I tell people, like, you guys must have like this and that program, and they're just like, no. And I'll try to explain like welfare, like social benefits to them. And I've had friends who are just like, so you're telling me that I can stay at home all day, get drunk, and eat popcorn, or do whatever I want, watch Netflix, and you will give me money? It's like,
Netflix
yep.
and chill.
Well, it's more like Netflix and then do some black market activity. Mostly like cash. No, like, oh, there's so much benefit scams here. People here will go on benefits. They'll say like, oh, I can't work, I can't do this. Then they'll go and do mechanic work. Like they'll change your brakes or something like that, and they'll charge you cash.
That's the thing with Haitians who come here, and even with the Venezuelans, Peruvians. They come from places of extreme poverty where they have to work hard. to get the things they need. And I'm actually quite surprised that we don't exploit the full potential of these people. In fact, I once told jokingly to my classmates at college, I think in 10 years, half of our national selection, of our national football team, will be black. I tell you, 10 years, it will look like an European team by then.
Like the French team.
Yes,
it looked like France.
A quick thing. I actually watched this guy who tried to say that somehow that the teams of the Netherlands and France were being now mostly being represented by blacks was a proof of that the European states were actually failing and stuff. But in reality, I'm like, wait a minute. If these kids, because he was showing the sub-18 teams, these youngsters, many of them who come from African countries, right? They're immigrants from them. If they want to play for those countries, why they don't do it? Why they're playing for the Netherlands or France or Germany? They're playing because they feel that they're home. For someone to play on the national team is great because you're playing to defend their colors.
It's a huge honor, but at the same time, it's also, they probably get paid a bit more because, I mean, I know these players technically don't get paid, but they get there's money given.
For example, there's the case of Shkodran Mustafi from the German national team. He plays in Arsenal. He won the World Cup back in 2014 with them. He's from, if I recall well, Albanian or Macedonian origin.
Mustafi?
Mustafi, yeah.
Mustafi.
Mustafi, yeah.
He's German from. Yeah. The parents are from Albania.
Yeah, but he was well. When people ask him, he got in, the letter to, hey, come play with us from Albania. He said no. I've lived all my life in Germany. These people have give me everything in my educational and as a sport career, so I'm playing with them. I'm another German now. Thank you for the consideration, but I owe them a lot. Yeah. And he played for Germany.
Yeah, that's integration right there.
Yeah,
it actually made me laugh when I was seeing Trevor Noah just saying that Africa won the World Cup because France was full of black people. In fact, I said to my brother when France won, "Hey, look, Wakanda just won the World Cup." Now, speaking of diversity, and this is an interesting topic I want to touch with you guys, is the whole Battlefield 5 fiasco. A story that keeps on giving.
Yep.
It's just...
Oh, yeah.
Eduardo, would you like to talk about it? What are your thoughts about all this stuff? Tell us.
First of all, everybody, many people here, I think it's familiar with EA antics of not listening to their customer base, of confronting them at some point, overpricing their products, and milking the cow far too much. So here we are after the success that was Battlefield 1, a game about the World War I. And it is, from my personal experience, it is one of the best games I played. I mean,
agreed.
And it has a lot. You learn a lot from that game. These guys from this channel on YouTube, The Great War, were the ones that actually made the codex, the explanations of every weapon, every battle, every operation. They're in the game.
Oh yeah.
They run them through them, by them. Mm-hmm. So in that so EA is riding the wave with Battlefield. The only thing that have saved from their previous screwing ups, because they have a Mass Effect Andromeda, way to go to kill a franchise, a really successful franchise, and they killed the franchise right there.
I mean, the facial animations just basically encompass everything wrong with the game.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And Then Battlefront 2. Battlefront 1 and 2. Both were awful.
We don't need to talk about those because Battlefront 1 was basically should be renamed Battlefront Arcade. It was bare bones. Battlefront 2 was basically a slot machine from a Star Wars themed casino.
Yeah.
And boxes and stuff. In fact, I didn't even buy it, man. I was going to buy it. I played the demo and I was like, oh fucking shit, this is so cool. I want to be able to play as the Imperial Stormtroopers. I want to storm Endor. I want to be in the battles. But then I look at the loot boxes and then I said to my brother, because we both want to buy the game, fuck no, I'm not going to give my money because I will spend, I think here in Chile, mostly of the overpriced games are like 50,000 pesos, that's basically $60 mostly. So I'm buying a game and I expect that with those $60, I will have a great experience, but I will then have to pay more money because my experience is incomplete.
Yeah. And well, also the Battlefront, the Battlefront thing, it's a disaster at launch. Like I never seen something like that. It's maybe you remember a picture that Tyler Preston put in Twitter. That he was in I think Best Buy in the video game section.
Mm-hmm.
It was Black Friday. Almost everything was taken except Battlefront 2. There were all those boxes there in the store. Nobody was buying it in Black Friday.
Yeah, but imagine that, and this is the fault of EA. The fault of EA alone. And it's funny that because I've heard that in Madden NFL, they were doing exact same shit, but the cherry on the pie is for Battlefield 2. And did you see this? Because it's funny how they went from bashing with a Trench Club, Call of Duty with Battlefield 1, which I played. It's a very great game. Now, I think that they over-exaggerated with the grenades because every time I get grenade spam every match.
That's one of the people that I play with, the KOSB. Please no hate. Everybody hates us. And
the grenade spamming.
We hate the grenade spamming. When I think you've played this map, the Forest of Argonne. When you try to enter a bunker and then they throw 5 grenades to you, and you are like, well, here we are.
Yeah.
I never played it. I mean, I when I bought my PlayStation, I got Battlefield 1 for free.
Yeah.
And our Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh.
And it was the worst thing I ever had because I had the option to get something else. I can't remember what it was. But I was like, oh no, this is going to be great. I'm going to be Darth Vader. I'm going to like kill tons of Jedis and rebels and stuff. And it's essentially just there was no campaign. There was nothing. It was just a walk around. It was just a multiplayer, and I hate that. I
love it. On the other hand, I love multiplayer, but I like when multiplayer has a meaning, and it's not just do that.
No, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but you really, Ernesto, I think the thing with, for example, with Battlefield 5, when I heard it was World War II, I was like, oh god damn, this will be great, because we've seen that in Battlefield 1, it's a great game. There's some things nitpicks right there, but overall, the soldiers, the feel of the game feels historically accurate. So we're gonna get a game that is World War II, and it was going to be so badass. Because of course, it's cool to imagine the battles of World War I, Zeppelins and stuff, but now with huge panzers and the Allied paratroopers, I expected that. And then the first trailer came out, and the Trevor Noah, the Trevor Noah thingy. Why the fuck they invited Trevor Noah to that?
Yeah. That reveal special was really cringy.
Yeah, it's not only cringy. I'm surprised that Call of Duty beat them on the reveal, because I watched the Call of Duty reveal, and I hate to admit it, but it was a better reveal because they gave the fans what they wanted.
What does Trevor Noah know about video games? I thought he only knew about complaining about Trump.
Nothing.
We were, like betting in our Battlefield clan. Like, I think we are we will will be a lot of jokes about Trump and some things like that. Yeah, okay, and everybody, yeah, drinking game. Every time they bash Trump, we drink. Fortunately,
I mean,
that didn't come to happen. Fortunately.
I mean, I tried to do that with the Oscars, and I actually said to myself, no, I shouldn't do that because I will end up drunk.
Yeah,
I actually had that when England played against, I think it was Panama, or which team did they play with on the World Cup?
Yeah.
I was gonna drink every time England's. I was gonna have like 2 shots every time England scored a goal.
You ended up shit-faced.
That was a fun night. That was a fun day. I mean, oh man, I never trusted it again. But no, like I don't like the way games are going these days, especially like with this weird cyborg prosthetic armed woman thing.
He's Imperator Furiosa from Mad Max, basically.
Yeah.
I saw it together with my brother, and he also is into World War II. And we watched the trailer, and we were like, so now we were like, okay, so this is a tank, and we see, okay, that is a woman with a prosthetic arm. Wait, is that a British SAS operator who is black? Okay, now the guy with the katana. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that part when in the trailer that he jumps and from the house, the katana should have broken in that point.
And not only that, then we see a Messerschmitt just falling to the ground. The guy picks up an MG42 and then starts fighting. And the V1 rocket. Yeah, the V1 rocket. And I'm like, and then he finished with the girl just basically bashing at what I presume is a German, because I can't see it as a German, with a cricket bat. And I'm like, what the fuck was this?
Yeah.
I mean, where is this? Where is the because why Battlefield 1 sold more than Call of Duty? The reveal trailer sold it. Because it didn't need to say, oh, no, this is what you're going to do. No, it showed you exactly what you were going to do. You were going to take part on the first great conflict of human history. You were going to take part on huge battles. And this is the important thing.
And the music was on point for that trailer.
Seven Nation Army has now become the World War I official song, basically.
Yeah.
But this is important. The guys, when they made Battlefield 1, I don't remember it has been sold. The main selling point was a historically accurate game. It was sold as an immersive experience in World War I. Battlefield 5 was marketed, it's being marketed as a historical accurate campaign. In fact, I actually made a thread on Twitter about the role of women in World War II. And personally, I would have loved to then did like Soviet snipers or British pilots.
Or even the Spanish Civil War. Okay, because then...
Night Witches.
Yeah, the Night Witches, or the partisans of the French resistance. I mean, if the girl on the cover was a girl from the French resistance, yes, those one, I don't think anyone will care about, because people know women serve on those roles. But no, the guy from DICE said, oh no, my little girl says she can play as a girl in Fortnite, a fantasy game that pretty much no one likes, because battle royale games are very easy to develop. I mean, if someone is playing Fortnite here, sorry, but Fortnite is a game that I won't touch with 16-inch pole. And he said, no, I have to add women because empowerment and stuff. You know, you could have done it in a way that it didn't felt it like, I don't know, like ridiculous. Sure. Yeah, because I keep telling you, a Soviet Russian sniper, that is fucking cool. Why don't a woman from the French resistance? I mean, there was this game, I found a Medal of Honor that it has a woman on the front cover. I saw some guy just saying that, oh, social justice was never in video games, but the guy missed a point. The girl on the cover is shown with a rocket launcher, and there's like the Panzer just burning. That game doesn't talk about a woman who's fighting in the front lines. It talks about a woman who is fighting for the OSS, the precursor of the CIA. And I mentioned that in my thread because this woman feels real. She's fighting an actual role that she fought. I mean, it would be like to see the guy with a katana. Why he's wielding a katana in 1944 Netherlands. I don't get it. And now we saw Angry Joe just basically defending it, saying that no, it's because Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption are coming, and that's why Battlefield pre-sales are low. Now, honestly, I will give Joe that point because I think that it's a sum of factors. I don't think it's just one thing. I think many people have gone up from the women.
Yes and no, but there's because you touch a really important point that in the past week at some point the pre-sales for Battlefield 5 were lagging 80% in an 80% the pre-sales for Call of Duty, and also there was a trend that Battlefield 3 was the last two Battlefields were getting close on pre-sales to Call of Duty, and then in Battlefield 1 at this point before launch they already were surpassing the last Call of Duty. Now they are lagging off. I mean, it's the release window, the previous release window. And also the fact that the confrontational attitude of the EA and DICE saying that you don't like how we are making this game, don't buy it.
Which is the dumbest thing I've.
It's like if you're from PR, I mean, if you're the PR guy who just said no, you should do it, quit, man. Because listen to this. The problem is. Yes, you're saying to the fan base that he's going to buy your fucking game. You're telling them to fuck off because they don't like your game. Look, honestly, personally, I'm not going to buy it, but I'm not going to buy it just because of not because that guy said. I'm not going to buy it because there are plenty of other games I want to spend my money. Red Dead Redemption looks very cool. I didn't play the original one. Hell, even Call of Duty looks better, and I might play it just for the lulz. And I don't know, there's plenty of other games I would like to spend my money right now, or even if I can, for example, I would like to buy DLC or anything, or even loot box from Overwatch. I don't know, but I will buy Battlefield when the prices is halved, because I don't want to buy it at launch, because I don't want to support it now. By the way, I think it will still be a great game. I do. It's not good to be trash, but you just have to realize that now we're living in times in which you have to vote with your wallet, and people honestly don't want to play a game in which your developers treat your fans like shit, in which your developers bully your producers to tell you no, we have to add women because that's the way to go. And one of the guys says, I'm going to be on the right side of history. Well, sadly, my dude, your game is going to tank hard. Yep. It's incredible that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 looks more entertaining than what you have to offer. In fact, my brother watched one of the trailers and he said, is this a Vietnam War game? Because it looks so unrealistic. And I saw someone say in the comments saying, so making uniforms about World War II is very hard. But I was like, look, there are hundreds of books written about World War II. There's hundreds of books who are from uniforms of World War II. So it's funny that DICE had decided to go with this look for the soldiers, for the customization. No helmets, leather jackets, and mohawks. So you're telling me that World War II was basically a bunch of dudes with leather jackets and bionic arms fighting the Germans who were on the tankers were using pilot helmets in the Low Countries fighting with katanas and cricket bats?
It's Cyberpunk 45.
By the way, Cyberpunk 2077 looks fucking cool.
Yeah,
I want to buy the game. It's like Blade. It will be. I finally can complete my dream of playing a Blade Runner video game.
There's even for cell phone. I have it on my Steam account. Shadowrun. It's a cyber. It's a RPG set in a cyberpunk setting. Really cool. I recommend it to everyone.
I recommend it too. It looks so fucking great.
I'm just playing Tropico right now.
Tropico.
That's something I would like to play.
You know,
you should, because all I do is just all you hear every day is the helicopters are whirling.
Okay, for the people who are listening to, so Tropico is a series of games developed by Calypso Media. So the games are like you take control of a Caribbean island during the Cold War. And I actually played the Tropico 4, and it's one of the best games I've ever played.
I got 5, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, what I like about the game was, first of all, the setting, because you just can't get enough of it. I mean, for once you feel like, oh, I'm like Fidel, because for once you can pretty much ruin your country with communism, or you can make it better with the support of the US, or you can have like missile launchers for the Soviet Union. So every time I play that game, because now my PC is now pretty dead by now. It was just a great experience. And I don't know, I will recommend that game to pretty much everyone from the political spectrum to just try it. I would love to see how the playthroughs go forth. Well, in my islands, usually the helicopters have a very tough time indeed.
Well, all I've done lately is just like, everyone's a communist. I'm just like, I shall use my death squad.
The Coca-Cola death squads. I thought that was a fucking meme, but then I realized that it was true. There was like a report saying that Coca-Cola financed some Colombian hit squads in, I think, during the 80s or something. But to end with that stuff of Battlefield 5, now that they have actually moved the release to, I think, the 20th of November.
Yes.
Okay, so personally, in my opinion, that was the only choice they had left, because the other was just stay there where they are and get mauled down for one hand by Call of Duty, and then get shot in the head by the revolver of Red Dead Redemption. And the other one, now, I think that actually moving to the 20th is actually more harmful for it, because Call of Duty back then will have many people playing it. So I doubt that many people will actually buy it, because many people will be already playing that shooter, and many people will be already playing Red Dead Redemption. So I think that it was the only thing they could do to save whatever scraps they had left of the game. It's the reaction. It's the reaction by the media.
You're right, and I think they've really just screwed up. That's the best way I can say it. They're gonna pay for it with really for comparatively low sales and a really pissed off fan base.
Yeah, and I don't think this game is going to kill off EA, but it will hurt them. It will hurt them enough, so they finally realize where they fucked up.
They also were saying that, for example, people at BioWare, one of the subsidiaries of EA, the studio that created Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and now it's working on Anthem, that those guys were really stressed right now, because they are scared of what the reactions could be of their new game Anthem, the one they are working right now in. So just I think there were rumors about, if Anthem goes bad, the BioWare is done. It's over for them.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer for Anthem, and Anthem is basically a rehash of Destiny.
Yeah,
and we know how Destiny was. I actually played the original Destiny
and Pokemon.
Yeah, I played the first Destiny, and look, I think that when Destiny, all the expansions were released, I think Destiny, before Destiny 2, I think after the Taken King expansion and after the Rise of Iron, I think it was a better experience than in year one. I actually played it almost religiously for a long time, but the reason I stick with it wasn't because I loved the game or the setting. It's because I wanted to play a shooter that wasn't Call of Duty. And I remember I got to level 40 just by simply grinding. I grind for like 3 years And those 3 years, I used only one weapon, the bad juju. Which it's funny because it was the only I was the only guy using the weapon. And then Destiny 2 comes by, and I lost the bad juju because now I supposedly lost all my stuff. And then I said, no, thank you. I'm not going to buy Destiny 2. Why? Because I spent thousands of pesos in Destiny 1. Because let's consider this. Destiny 1, 60,000 pesos. Let's start counting. Destiny 2's other expansions, 5,000 pesos each, 10,000. So we got now 70,000 pesos. Destiny, I think the next was the Taken King, which was like 25 or 10,000. So now we have like 80,000 at least. And then the Rise of Iron, like 85,000. And I think I missed something. I think I missed something, but basically I spent almost like 85,000 pesos in a single video game. And if we move that to dollars, which I need to go now.
All I know is that I have actually spent, like, you guys know Crusader Kings 2?
Of course.
I spent $124 on the game. I mean, that is money I could have spent in other things. Now, some guy would say, "Oh, that's not actually much." Well, honestly, when you start thinking about it, I could have used that money to actually buy food or most important things. I don't know. It's just that it just drains me, and I'm saving up money to buy a gaming PC. Because I want to play in PC, and I think it's better. I think it's much better because I don't have my Xbox right now in the place I live currently. So that's what I'm doing now. I won't spend money on anything else. I will save up money. I will buy a gaming PC, and then I will buy all the games I want from Steam. I prefer to spend money in games that actually can spend time playing than actually have to buy it and then keep buying it because I don't want to. I don't want to spend. Mm-hmm.
I just hate like what Paradox does, where they come out with like the basic like Crusader Kings 2, and then they bring out like a bunch of DLC, and every DLC is like $20-$30 each. And I've got 2,700 hours into Crusader Kings 2.
Yeah, it's a really addictive game, and no, just imagine if you could use all the whole world like in Europa Universalis.
Oh.
Well, do you have? There's even an expansion where the Aztecs come and invade Europe all across the world.
Yeah, they do, and they bring diseases apparently, which is funny.
Yeah.
But I think, guys, we've covered the battlefield thing. Now there is a fun new development in Guatemala.
Oh yes, Guatemala.
Indeed.
Jimmy Morales, the president of Guatemala, has told the I believe it's a corruption court, the International Commission Against Impunity in Guatemala,
yes,
or CICIG. He kicked them out, and he actually says, I'm looking at a New York Times article. Mr. Morales accused the commission Friday of violating our laws, inducing people and institutions to participate in acts of corruption and impunity, and selective criminal prosecution with an ideological bias. Selective justice has been used to intimidate and terrorize the citizenry, he said. Judicial independence has been violated with the intention of manipulating justice, actions that attack the presumption of innocence and due process. And then funny thing is, this is around the time that he's been accused of receiving about $1 million in undeclared contributions back in 2015. So,
but I found the news in ADN, which is a local radio, that the president Jimmy Morales just kicked out the CICIG, the Comisión Internacional contra la Impunidad en Guatemala. Now, the interesting thing about this is just basically, if you're going to kick out this group, I mean, it means that you have something to hide, basically.
Totally.
Especially when you surround their building with army vehicles that the United States just gave them.
It's just like, hey, are you a petty dictator from Central America? You want some vehicles? Oh yes, yeah. Oh,
these are only for smuggling, Jimmy. You use those to fight the smugglers. You don't do anything else. Promise? Oh yes, senor, I promise. Don't you worry. I'm gonna be a good boy.
gonna be a good Guatemalan girl.
And then it just looks at it and it's like, oh yeah, we have this criminal corruption court, and I have some new tanks.
Pendejos. These pendejos, give them some armored vehicles and some policemen, and they will go away.
but like, I mean, it's. I mean, I can understand why some people would be against, these international courts, because they're hard to be independent, especially, I mean, if they're European, because they generally have that kind of socialist lean to them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they are really good at fighting corruption, which is a really bad problem in Latin American justice systems. I mean, corruption is just rampant. And I believe, while we were on WhatsApp there, Eduardo kind of said, like, what authority do they have if a country doesn't recognize them? And I mean, that's a legitimate point.
Yeah, it's well, I was reading a column the other day in one of Mexico's leading newspapers, the El Universal, and they were saying precisely about these crisis of legitimacy of every international court. Like, they don't know what the future is going to present to them. And
sorry.
Yep. For example, do you remember this Croatian guy that
the weird doctor who he was doing like scam medicine, and he was hiding, he was in hiding, and he was he was practicing holistic medicine or something, and he turned out to be a war criminal?
Yeah, the one that drink his poison shot in front of the judges.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah,
I mean, that thing he said, it's I think it's the supreme act of protest against an international court. The fact that you know what, I'm not gonna submit to whatever they decide to sentence me. They already think that I'm guilty, and yes, I think that he probably deserved whatever he had coming for him, but those kind of courts, for example, where all these war criminals from the former Yugoslavia. There are any European prisons, and European prisons tend to be better than some hotels from this part of the world. Or 20 years in a German prison against 2 weeks in a Guatemalan prison. It's
much better.
No, I mean, like, I'll do a life sentence in a German prison. It's you're gonna have where to sleep. Your cell won't be crowded. Perhaps you get a cell for you alone, and you're gonna have to do 3 meals every day. It's they got it going for them.
No, they do.
And it all started, with the Nuremberg trials. I think it was it's something that maybe the world needed at that time, but I don't think that kind of jurisdictions will survive these turbulent times right now. I mean, the next thing, maybe they want to put, I don't know, Xi Jinping or Putin on trial. What are they going to do? Well, I don't. I just withdraw myself from the treaty of the International Criminal Court. Do whatever you want. I'm not gonna go. I don't care. It's I think those treaties are not going, as I told you, are not going to survive. It's people doesn't want to be accountable for anything. South Africa, which we covered last episode, it's contemplating abandoning those treaties because they have a lot of problems with corruption. Yes, and what if they found anything about whatever funds they have been diverting from where they are supposed to be going? It's it's going to be hard, and if they withdraw in the case of South Africa, if they withdraw, what are they going to do when the blacks start killing the whites in mass? Not like right now. I mean, like when there's a full-blown genocide down there. Because I think, sadly, it will come to happen. But nobody is going to... Well, maybe they'll try to stop them, but nobody is going to bring those people to justice. And everything because those courts sometimes ended up trying to get a lot into inner politics from some countries, and they were used by the most powerful players in the world, in the world.
But I mean, at the same time, how effective are these really? Like, I mean, these corruption courts and things like that. I mean, they don't really seem to work, because you might cut down one. You mean, say if they got Jimmy Morales, okay, big deal. They got one guy and they got lucky, but it just makes the corruption.
The way the name Jimmy Morales just sounds. It sounds like Central American, by the way. Jimmy Morales.
Jimmy, not Jaime.
Yeah. He sounds like a Puerto Rican salsa singer. Coming soon to Telemundo, Jimmy Morales and his great band.
Jimmy Morales y los cangrejos del ritmo. But the names are like that, man. But actually, it's the same thing. I mean, how useful are these things? It's funny that I'm reading the article, and the commission said,
"Didn't Pinochet get away with this shit?"
Well, the Pinochet thing it's something different. It's called
it's the Hague, wasn't
it? Not precisely the Hague. There's this thing that some people believe that it's something that that everybody should be trained, called universal jurisdiction. That any judge in any place can bring to justice to any criminal in the world. I mean, this guy
tried to do it with Fujimori when because he after 2000. Oh, sorry, Eduardo. Sorry, man.
I don't know if you heard of Baltasar Garzón.
Yes, vaguely.
Well, he's a Spanish judge. That he's a how would you say, a true believer from of this universal jurisdiction thing. He even how would you say, he gave an order for the arrest of Pinochet. So, I mean, why an Spanish judge is ordering the arrest of Chilean dictator. He didn't commit any crimes in Spain or to Spanish citizens, or why is he even meddling with that? That's a task for the Chilean tribunals, if you ask me. Well, once
it's incredible because I remember the time when how I say this, when Pinochet was in prison in England. I remember that the repercussions about that were so huge that Blur, the very popular band back then, Blur, in which Damon Albarn was the main singer, they were meant to actually have a gig in Santiago, and what happened was that the embassy in of the UK in Chile said, "Hey, don't go because there will probably be some Pinochetistas in the crowd, so we don't want to have the risk of any confrontation or anything harmful to happen. So just please don't go." But the interesting thing about this thing of the Guatemala is that basically when you start seeing that Jimmy Morales just surround himself with military and policemen, and this is something very common with presidents of Central America,
they love doing
they hold power through the police. In fact, Manuel Noriega, who was a dictator in Panama, the interesting thing why he had so much power was because the Panamanian army, the Panamanian Defense Force, was the police force. So when you have a militarized police force, such as your own army, it's very easy to control the entire country. And I remember that Noriega was later deposed by the Americans with an invasion. But I think that what we should be seeing here is that, for example, the commission said that according to the last polls, the 70% of the people accept this new president, and the image of the president is less than 20%. So basically, the people from Guatemala, there are people who support him. There is not yet a unified consensus of this guy. Oh no, this guy's someone who should we be careful about. But when you realize that he just kicks out this commission, it should really tell you this guy is hiding something. I mean, probably he has some ties with drug dealers or something. But I mean, Noriega had. Also, a little something about Argentina. So I think Argentina will turn soon in the next Venezuela. So there was a video on Twitter that in the city, in the coastal town of Comodoro Rivadavia, a supermarket was sacked because this is coming in a time in which the Argentinian currency is actually being devaluated at a very high pace compared to the dollar.
Yep.
I actually have compassion for the Argentinians. I mean, their country has been shit, basically in economic terms, for such a long time that this is stuff that it will just keep happening, basically. I don't know. I think we have pretty much covered up everything.
There's one more thing, guys, and this is probably the icing on the cake. NAFTA.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. NAFTA.
And
NAFTA.
Those crafty Mexicans are at it again.
Oh yes, they're bringing crime. They're bringing drugs. They're not very good people. Okay.
No. Now Canada's mad at Mexico because they didn't side with us on NAFTA.
That's racist.
Because Donald Trump was just like, well, I'm gonna make a deal with Mexico, and Canada was like, well, hey, our Mexican friends, listen, we all get along. I mean, we have Taco Bells here in Canada, and we love your Mexican culture, with your ponchos and your sombreros and all your interesting things.
Yes.
Occasionally cocaine.
Yes.
But so can you guys just work together with us against the states so we can get a good deal on NAFTA? Mexico's just like, no,
¿Qué
we're not
pasó,
going to do
vato?
No, ni de
Esos
pedo.
vatos, ¿cómo lo voy a hacer? No quiero hacer enfadar al gringo. Mira lo que es un pinche racista y me va a construir un muro.
Haces enojar al patrón y ¿para qué quieres? Luego así te carga la chingada, no se puede.
But I mean, like Canada literally thought that Mexico was gonna like be nice to us because we let Mexico come in visa free. All they need is their passports. We thought that was going to be enough, and Mexico was just like, no.
And coming event, I think Trudeau. I think I've heard that Trudeau is actually landing in Mexico for the talks about NAFTA, dressed as a fucking mariachi.
He probably would. He'll look like Antonio Banderas in mariachi. He's going to be just like that. Or Zorro.
It would be awesome.
Yeah.
Imagine comedy gold.
Yeah, but
well, I mean, I'm waiting for him to go to like. I thought India, man. Oh God! Don't even get me started on that. I've got a friend.
I mean, he looked like a guy from Bollywood, man. What the fuck?
He looked like the most albino Indian ever.
I mean, I understand the reason behind that. I mean, you want to blend in, you want to create animosity within your culture, but there are more ways to do that, man. I mean, you have to do it.
He created animosity. He pissed off everybody.
Everyone. I mean, you have to look at Theresa May dancing in South Africa to just get a good idea about that.
Oh, cringy. Like, listen, as a white man, I can say this: we can't dance.
That was
neither should she.
I once met a Polish guy that actually he danced really, really well.
Yeah, that's rare, but but like, here's the funny thing though about this is that Mexico is going to and I can't blame them for this. They're going to go for themselves. They're looking out for one country, Mexico, because Peña Nieto wants to go off with at least some sort of good legacy. Before AMLO goes in and hugs every like drug dealer he can. He's like Narco Trudeau, by the way. Because if I kill my enemies, they win.
He already backpedaled on that. So
oh well, that's our AMLO.
Yeah, he will keep the army in the streets. But well, I remember, and they said that how you call it, when Trump said that he was favoring bilateral deals instead of a region-wise deal, Canada said that, well, we love our Mexican friends, but business are business, and we can't have their backs this time. And now that Mexico just said, okay, every man for himself, then we will scratch our backs with our own nails, and actually pull a deal with Trump that I think it will be a little harmful for both of us. They basically, now I've heard people from Canada complaining that those treacherous Mexicans, they left us, they sided with Trump. How could they? No, we didn't side with Trump. We were saving the furniture.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing. Here's the funny part about NAFTA, about the whole NAFTA talks, is that a certain fun Mexican ex-president decided to give us advice. This wonderful statesman of Mexico, Vicente Fox.
Oh my God! He said
he came to Toronto, and the news came and started talking to him, and they're like, "So what should we do, Vicente Fox? Because you're apparently the wisest Mexican around, and probably he's the wisest Mexican we could find." And we trust your wisdom and your mustache. And he's just like, he literally just says, give Trump what he wants. Just give him what he wants.
I'm picturing him. Look, Justino, you should give him what he wants. The fucking trompudo wants you to kiss his feet. So you should bow and kiss his feet. Do it, Justino.
But we're not building that fucking wall. But I mean, like, it's so funny because Canada, they're just like, well, we need to have NAFTA, we need to have free trade agreements. Okay, well, that's fine, dandy, but you do realize that there are other countries you can trade with. Like,
what up, my man? Here, Chile, we're offering some shit to sell. No,
not Peru. Peru's got a free trade agreement with Canada, and I need cheap shoes and shirts. Okay, so screw you, Chile. You're on your own. You've got enough stuff.
Yeah, we have stole enough from Peruvians, Argentinians, and Bolivians. We only stole the sea, man.
Yeah, well, listen. You caused Bolivia to be in the situation it's in terms of
and thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that
you've kept Evo landlocked.
Yeah. You know what's funny? The Peruvians, I think it was during the 90s or the 80s, but for that, there was this president. I don't know if it was Fujimori, gave Bolivians a strip of land called Bolivia Mar.
Yeah.
And what they did with
built
it,
like a navy there.
What they did there, nothing. It's just a strip of sand. And the reason why they built it is because the president of Peru back then, I don't know who
it was. Probably Fujimori, because it was the 90s.
Yes, probably Fujimori. He wanted to create something to match Iquique and Arica, who were being declared special trading zones by Chile, because there's we call here Zona Franca, which is with no taxes, basically.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do that on Mexico. He wanted to do that on Bolivia Mar. What happened was the Bolivians didn't accept it. And you know why they didn't do it? They didn't do it because if they accepted that, then they couldn't complain about an access to the sea to Chileans. So basically, they're fucked. But yes, the free economic zone, that's the name. He wanted to create a free economic zone, man. So the thing with at least, we're just talking about NAFTA. First of all, I have to say, Trump is basically doing exactly what he said. He said that he wanted to take the U.S. away from meaningless or treaties or any kind of compromises that didn't do well to the American industry. So, and that has to do with NAFTA. Now, every time Trump speaks, I feel like I'm hearing a 12-year-old, not 10-year-old speak. Because the way he talks, the lack of actual cohesive words. But the problem is, he's a guy who speaks like a 10-year-old who has the power to do that stuff. So basically, I just stop laughing when he says that.
Well, either way, I mean, Canada on free trade has dropped the ball, and they're actually already talking about it, like how it's another just trade blunder. And they're lucky that all this other stuff has happened, like Maxime Bernier and everything else, because it's distracted people from how crappy this is going to turn out. And
well, there's this thing with Canada that I think they overplayed their hand in this NAFTA thing. They basically, well, they were pushing, gender, ideology, and ambiental regulations for the new draft of NAFTA, and Trump got tired of it. He started playing tough, and then NAFTA. That's what. Then Canada. That's the moment when they overplay their hand, saying, we are sitting back and let's see what are you going to do. They trusted them. I think that was the moment when Trump called their bluff and started negotiating with Mexico more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's the moment that what does Canada and Trudeau have right now to get back into the conversation for NAFTA, something to negotiate with. I think that at the end they will adhere to NAFTA, to this new NAFTA, accepting every condition that Trump put them. And well, it's really scary that he's a really shrewd player.
He's strange. I'll give him that. I mean, I give him respect because he's shook shit up.
Yeah.
But he's also proved how ignorant our elected government is here. Because I mean, NAFTA is probably the most important deal of the Canadian economy right now. It's like one of the big things, and we're just coming off the fact that we spent $4.5 billion on a pipeline that we're not allowed to build. I think it was $4.5 billion. It's a couple $1 billion. We bought a pipeline from Kinder Morgan because they were going to pull out. It was
It's not the Keystone pipeline that
it's a trans some kind of trans pipeline. I forget the name now.
Trans?
Hmm.
Are you assuming he's gender, man?
I am. But I try not to pay attention to the environmental stuff because it just gives me a headache. It's just shrieking hippies. Yeah, I know. I think it's a transnational or Trans-Pacific pipeline, I think. I'm just Googling it again just so I can remember. Trans Mountain Pipeline. But then I just saw Trans Pikachu, which is strange. But but no, like we bought a pipeline extension, and then the court said, well, you didn't consider the killer whales and you didn't speak to the indigenous peoples, so you can't build the pipeline, the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And the government's just like, whoops, because we still have to give Kinder Morgan a couple $1 billion, and we've given them billions of dollars for something that we can't build or use because hippies and killer whales and some indigenous groups that probably had nothing to do with the location of this pipeline, like they're nowhere near it. Because I know a lot of like Indian tribes who have made a lot of money off oil here in Canada. There's one group called Fort McKay, and they're rotten with money. Oh man, like they're worth like I think a couple $100 million just from oil. So it's crazy, but yeah, like this is just another one of the blunders. And I mean, they needed NAFTA because Keystone, and then Trump was just like, well, that's not going to happen. See you later there, Justin. I sound more like Reagan than Trump, but still.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau always seemed to me like this. He's such an actor, man. I mean, everyone in my school, when I was in school, every one of my female teachers find him hot, and they say, why we can't have someone like him there? And back then I was just starting my life in internet politics, and I said to them, no, you don't want him here. Because look, Trudeau was chosen basically because he was a young politician in a sea of old.
No, that's actually not true. The reason his youth was a factor, but the main reason is the name. His father was prime minister in the 80s, and his father was really, really popular. And he was kind of a good prime minister, not a great one. But
he was crazy, right?
Oh God, like a fox, like a Vincente Fox. But but no, he actually introduced multiculturalism as a national policy. And did something called the Oka Crisis, which was almost pretty much a standoff between the Canadian Army and indigenous groups. It was pretty strange. He also killed a bunch of separatists. So, or he fought them.
Was he the one who flipped the middle finger to Albertan and British Columbia farmers?
I can't recall. He might have been. That might have been Joe Clark too. We've had a lot of weird prime ministers. No, he managed to get Canada technically independent of the UK, by bringing the British North America Act to Canada, and making it ours. And he also then pirouetted behind the Queen. I don't know what that means, but he did like a little twirl around her, which broke protocol and pissed off all the monarchists. But yeah, he also, his wife was like a lot younger than him, and I think she dated some of the Rolling Stones. Yeah, it was the 70s and 80s. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, the only reason Justin Trudeau got anywhere is because of his family name. If it wasn't for that, he would have just been another backbench idiot, like nodding and agreeing. Otherwise, he would have been nutting. But we had like 2 or 3 weak leaders before him. We had Michael Ignatieff, who spent more time in the States than he did in Canada, and then you had this other one. God, what was his name? Dion. He's that forgettable. That Stéphane Dion. That was his name. Stéphane Dion. He was the other leader of the Liberal Party for a bit, and he was an absolute idiot. They both went up against Stephen Harper and got thrashed. So essentially they got beat up by a guy who looked like a virgin in a vest. And then Dion, when Trudeau became prime minister, he became, I believe, foreign affairs, and then Trudeau demoted him to like ambassador of the EU, and then demoted him even further, and he just resigned and said, "Forget I quit." But yeah, long story short, it's been a crazy time in Canada, and I'm not looking forward to what's happening. But guys, I think we've covered everything. Surprisingly. So anything you guys want to say in closing?
Yes, Ernesto, you go first.
No, well, I just want to thank you guys for once again making this podcast awesome, and say no to socialism.
Please.
Yes. Don't end up like Venezuela. I mean, don't end like Venezuela, but the Venezuelan
Argentina.
girls.
The great sexy Southern shift.
Yes, it's coming.
And you, Eduardo, want to say anything?
Well, just I think this NAFTA deal the consequences will be felt during next year's election in Canada, which will be trying to cover cover like thoroughly during all the event.
Oh yeah.
So stay tuned, please.
Yes, and I will say that thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry that I couldn't made it to the other 2 episodes, but I'm happy that you consider me for this. And well, let's hope that the next week is full of all kind of spicy things to talk about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I guess everyone have a good night and enjoy your week. We'll see you next Sunday.
See ya.